Hello, everyone. Dr. Ames here. This time I'd like to talk to you about content theories of motivation. Now, researchers have told us that there are two types of theories of motivation out there, the content theories and the process theories. Both theories deal with internal factors, but look at those internal factors in different ways to find out what is the best way to motivate workers. As you can see here, we have a number of different theories of content motivation. Um, Motivation really is just a psychological process, and it's a process in which our goal directed behavior gets things accomplished by focusing our attention on the things that we need to do. Well, content theories of motivation are about internal factors, and they're also about how we view our job from a perspective of satisfaction. Do we have job satisfaction or not? Or do we have job dissatisfaction? And that comes from the content of our job itself. So it's not about really interacting with the environment. It's more about what's going on in our minds concerning that environment, the situational factors. And so for employers, this means influencing the needs of their workers in a positive way. And that is what is at the heart of content theories. The notion that workers have needs and that if those needs are satisfied, then they are somewhat motivated. So all of the theories focus on needs of some type or another in some organizational manner. Um, so needs are either psychological or they are physiological. In other words, physical or mental. And they are factors that cause us to do certain types of behaviors. So needs are certainly influenced by our environment. And our environment at work is that contextual business environment that includes not just the organization you're in, but the results of the industry that you're competing in and all of those things. When people have unmet needs, they are somewhat motivated to satisfy them. And it's the job of employers and managers to make sure that you are presenting an environment that speaks to the needs of people so they can feel like they are indeed moving ahead. So the first theory, content theory of motivation, is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And this one combines both psychological and physiological features. The most notable thing about his theory is that it's set up in a pyramid fashion, and that you have to work through and satisfy those base needs at the bottom first before you can move up and satisfy higher level needs that would motivate us higher up in the pyramid. So our safety and physiological needs for having food, safety, a place to live, and all of those sorts of things have to be satisfied before we can really deal with issues that are much more social. Once we deal with social issues, we can then move along in our jobs and careers and build self-esteem and status and so forth, and hopefully accomplish all the career goals that we want in the end by reaching some level of self-actualization. One of the more interesting parts of the theory is that you cannot move ahead through the levels until you've satisfied those lower level needs. So the pyramid certainly is somewhat culture bound to Western culture. It applies in North America, certainly, and most of Europe, but indeed not entirely the whole world. Because if you look at those bottom couple of needs there, the safety and security and the physiological, in Western society, we have smaller networks of support, smaller nuclear families. We have less things to help us out and so forth to get through life. Whereas in much of the world, it's much more collective in nature. Support networks include many more people and so forth. And so, in one sense, those bottom needs are already taken care of. And so, you are, because of the very way that you live and the culture you exist in, your sphere of influence that protects you is larger. So, that is the biggest difference there. If these needs are satisfied, then you have more job satisfaction. Now, Alderfer's ERG theory stands for existence, relatedness, and growth. And really, this is just a modification of Maslow's pyramid where the existence needs are combining the bottom two needs the social needs, and so forth. In the middle of that pyramid are the relatedness, and growth is about your individual achievement. And one interesting thing about it is similar in a way to Maslow in saying that if you can't achieve those lower level needs, then you regress. And the way he puts it, you fall back and have to work on those lower level needs and satisfy them before you can again try to go back and satisfy higher level needs. So everything is interrelated, that as you satisfy each higher level need, you're gaining satisfaction. And so if we're applying this to the workplace, your job satisfaction comes out of solving these most basic needs as you work up through things that are more social and that are more about your individual achievement. So your growth needs in both of those areas. We also have McClelland's motivational needs. His contains 3 elements, very similar to the other 2 content theories, except for one, the need for power. So we have the need for affiliation, which is the social, and we have the need for achievement, which is the individual needs. And it more or less is discarding those functional needs that everybody has for physiology and psychology, and says there's something else going on, and it's much more important, and it's that need for power. Now, most of us have a need for power, and power itself has a negative connotation simply because it is power, and we tend to focus on the negative abuses of power that we see out there. But just being a coach or a mentor is expressing a somewhat of a need for power. Something like that, a professor being in front of a classroom is exercising a little bit of power. So power can be viewed in many different ways, and it is one of those very powerful motivational needs that we do have. Finally, we have Herzberg's 2-factor theory as our last content theory. Herzberg really delves into the notion of either we are satisfied at work or we are not. So we either have job satisfaction or we have job dissatisfaction. Now, our job satisfaction is something that is really motivated and influenced by the basic things that we are expecting at work. The work itself, whether or not we get the occasional pat on the back, whether or not we can achieve anything. These are the things that are expected. And as long as the employer provides these basic things, we're generally satisfied. Now, people generally don't become happy or unhappy, and that's not the way to look at it. And it's not the employer's job to make you happy at work, but they do want to make you satisfied, because having satisfaction is motivational. And it is not the same thing as happy, which is a state of mind. Okay, on the other side of it, we have what he calls his hygiene factors versus those motivator factors, which cause us to be satisfied at work. But so many things that we have to think about, where we have to weigh them in our minds, we make comparisons in different ways to others. It goes beyond just being satisfied by the basic conditions of work, and we start thinking about how that affects us in different levels. And so the working conditions and how people treat us, and the nature of policies and rules, and whether or not our boss treats us with respect. And are we getting the compensation we deserve, or are we working too hard, or we're working not hard enough? All of those factors come into it. This is where we have to part, because this is where we start talking about process theories. So I'll talk to you again soon, and we'll pick this theory up in just a few moments.